Starting soon. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Dirty SIBA Derby. I got to get used to that SIBA Dirty South. There we go. And we seem to be live on YouTube and right here in our Discord. Van, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. Glad to be here. Glad to finally get this underway after a lot of pre-work, and eager to share some thoughts about the league with the audience.
That's right. And the good thing about today is we are going to be talking about players in the SIBA under 23 and under, who are just tearing it up in the league and have a chance to be the future of the league. And some of them, we're not talking about future. We're talking about right now, aren't we?
We are indeed. Some of the best players in the league are already on this list.
That's right. We got some great young players in the league, and we will be talking about them coming up in just a little bit. But first, why don't we take a look? Because we've already gone through another season in the SIBA, and it was an exciting season. I'll tell you that much. We've seen a lot. We've seen a lot of good teams come in. We've seen a lot of dominant teams. I mean, just look at who has been playing. But now we're in playoff times, and it seems like
Not the one everyone expected, although it would have been a top three choice for me. That one sweep was Phoenix taking care of Denver in 4 games. Not horribly unexpected, but brief. Glad to see Denver make the playoffs, though. That's a big achievement for them.
it really is to see them get in there, especially having to go through all of the play-in games. Those are always tough when you're playing all those extra games to just get into the playoffs. So we do have to say congratulations to Denver for making the playoffs.
I know certainly made their way through the play-in with authority, absolutely demolishing arch rival Seattle on their home court there to finish that off. But that play has continued with a close series. Although, to be honest with you, I kind of feel like, I mean, it's a make or miss league. And I feel like Mama just hasn't been making their threes. And that's probably going to change somewhere down the way.
At 2 games apiece, including both of our series, which we didn't expect to see. We had hoped for sweeps on our own end.
Indeed, I'm not really any disrespect intended to Montreal, but they have been crushed by injuries, and I thought that would make it a pretty easy series for me. But PJ Orr has been absolutely fantastic. I don't exactly have the best set of guards to stop a guard of that caliber offensively, and it is showing in that performance there. But thank goodness Tom Herr found the fountain of youth and came out with 44 in Game 4 to even the series back up and bring it back to Jacksonville.
That's right. And I think we're going to be talking about Mr. Orr a little bit later on when we talk about the 23 the players under 23 that are leading the league and going to be the future of the league. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. I think it's kind of funny to see. We had the Mamba and the Rhinos. That went home and home. I believe the Charge and Stampede also a lead on Detroit, but Detroit managed to get a game in on them. So we'll see if they have a chance to win that one. It should be very, very interesting. But I think my thought is that the Metros are going to get through to round number 2 at least.
Absolutely. I predicted a gentleman sweep, and we are on pace for that. I thought the Hoops and the Eagles would be a little closer, but I know the Hoops had to have been devastated by falling out of the playoffs in the first round last year after a crushing series of injuries to their big men. So I think they may be taking the opportunity to get a little retribution for that.
And I'll take a second to talk about my series where another guy that we're going to be talking about a little bit later on, Ian Davis, has really stepped up for the Wildcats, and Milwaukee is putting up a fight against my attack. I really thought that I would be able to take this series pretty easily, and I think I just got a little bit full of myself. It's going to be a knockdown, drag out, probably 7-game series. And the funny thing about the Wildcats is their records home and away are the same. So home court advantage. It's hard to say whether they're going to have it for the rest of the time or whether I can steal it back when we get game number 5 and 6 coming up in just a little bit. That's really
could be a factor.
Yeah, it could definitely be a factor. So that's kind of what we're looking at the playoff wise. It's really is going to be. I mean, last year we had all those upsets. We had ended up with a number 7 seed and a number 5 seed in the final, something like that, 3 seed. I can't quite remember where Minnesota was last year, but this year looks like it could go any way right now.
Absolutely could. I mean, last year the Jackals were a 10 seed, made it through the play-in, made it to the second round, where we got totally dumped by Indiana, uh, unceremoniously. But anything can happen in the playoffs right now.
And anything definitely can. So there we go. That is kind of our look at the playoffs. And as the rounds continue, we'll continue to look at how it's going on and see if these top seeds can make it this year. Can the Mamba pull it out? Can the Metros make it happen? Will the Scorpions? I mean, will they continue with this hot thing? We've definitely seen in the past where teams that went 4-0 in the first round kind of ran into a little bit of trouble in the second round and even the conference championship. So we'll see if the Scorpions can keep this hot ride going on, or whether they're going to run into a little bit of trouble in round number 2. Okay, I think it's time to start talking about some young players. What do you think, Van?
Absolutely. It's the lifeblood of the league. We got to keep bringing talent in.
Keep bringing talent in, and I know that a lot of the teams that are going to be in the lottery this year are going to start looking for next year's talent, but we're not going to talk about that quite. Some ways of we'll start at the bottom, start with the guys that are just kind of players in the league and get up to the very, very, very best in the league. And like I said, some of these guys are already at the top.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Now, the
when I
first
started
tier.
this project, I sorted the players in the league, youngest to oldest, went through
Mhm,
them, looking at my tiers that I was looking at roughly. Where tier one could be the best player on a championship team, that guy we're all looking for. I think any given time, there's probably 5 to 8 of those guys in the league. We all want them. Are there any of those guys in the 23 and under group? Guys I think can make an all SIBA team in their career. At some point in time
mhm,
in their career, be one of the 15 best players in the league.
mhm.
Is there an all-star in there? And then my fourth tier were someone who could be a top three starter on a championship level team. So I went through pulling players out. I have a few tiers below that, but there's no need to talk about those players at this point in time. And I found, I think, 39 guys that I identified. And then I started trying to order them into groups, I think similar to what you did.
Mhm.
So why don't we go through your list and we can compare that to mine and talk about what we think.
39. So my list had 26 players in it when we all got said and done. And yeah, the 39 is a pretty lengthy list. And he really did put the time and effort into this one, I'll tell you that. Okay, so the first group is going to be kind of my tier five is what I have them in, and these are guys that I see being rotational guys that are they're very good rotational guys. So guys that are either going to be starting for your team. Most of these guys will be starting, and most of them will be at least in the rotation. Probably so a couple 6 men in this one. You won't get too much further down than that.
Okay.
And a lot of centers made this list. We got Maynard Malone of San Diego and Thibault Rosenbach of Phoenix. For Kelly, I'm mispronouncing some of these on purpose, just for him. We got Larry Owens in Minnesota, the best name in the league, Tyreal Deal in
He is the real
Montreal,
deal. I can testify.
and then one shooting guard in there is Byron Hooks of Denver. What do you think about those guys?
I had all those guys on my list, some a little higher than that. I think Byron Hooks has a shot at making an all-star game. I had him in my tier three. He was number
Mm-hmm.
10 overall on my list.
Ooh.
Maynard Malone was I think an honorable mention on my list.
Mm-hmm.
Thibaut Rodenbach is an honorable mention on my list. I see him as an all-star player too, similar to Larry Owens, Tyrell Deal, kind of a little bit lower for me on Deal. I
Yep.
think he's gonna. He reminds me a lot of sort of a poor man's version of Isaac Smith on my team. He's a
Mm-hmm.
superb defender, superlative defender. I just don't know that if he's ever going to score enough points to be more than that.
I definitely agree with your about a lot of that. He does do a lot of little things on there. He gets the rebounds. He's got some assist numbers for a center that are pretty impressive at 4.2 assists per game this year. But the scoring, yeah, he does need to get a little bit more out of that, and maybe a little bit more out of the blocks and steals to really solidify his spot. Byron Hooks, I agree with you. Also, he could have been up a level on me. I think I may have misplaced him down this far on my list. There's a couple guys I can see that are in my tier four that probably could get swapped out with him.
All right, so let's move on to your tier four then.
Tier four is probably the biggest group I got because I think there are a lot of guys that are in this level. They're guys that they score pretty well, but that's pretty much a lot of what they do. They don't quite have. I'd just say they just don't quite have the ceiling of being like the top one, two, or two player on a team. They can probably be in that like fourth or fifth player starter, definitely. And we'll start that off with a guy that's given me fits in my playoff, Ian Davis, power forward from Milwaukee. I've also got Rashim Lopez, a power forward from Phoenix.
I am familiar
Gilbert,
with the stylings of Rashim Lopez. He was a former member of my team. Um,
yeah, I see a lot
I
of
can
these
tell you,
guys that have.
Rashim might win a scoring title someday, but
He
I
may
also
he
don't
may
know that
he,
he's going to start for a team either.
yeah, it's one of those where he definitely doesn't do much else though. I mean that's the thing. He gets a couple rebounds a game, got 6.3, but for a power forward, you may want a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
Um, but he's got no assists, very few blocks, very few shooting. He's definitely an offensive first sort of guy. So he'd definitely be the scoring. Gilbert Dollar, shooting guard for OKC. Again, I'd like to see a little bit more out of him in the scoring front. He's getting, I mean, 17.3 is nothing to sneeze at. But again, he's just mainly a shooter, gets a couple steals so he can get in there on the defensive end. Rufus Honeycutt to point guard for Toronto. I think he could maybe be a tier higher, to be honest. He's definitely done some good stuff there.
Did not make my list. I'm going to have to try to figure out why we differed so much on that one.
Yeah, I mean he's got the 7.8 assists. That's why I put him in here, along with the 15.2 points per game. So, like I said, it's just one of those things that he's on there. Manny Lawrence, also from Milwaukee, he's gets a center position for them. He's solid. He's solid, but not going to be any knock you down. Not gonna be like the star player on the team. You got Mike Masillo from Houston, shooting guard.
Of that kid.
Yep. And then we've got Donald Kent, center from Vancouver, and Jamar DeGray, power forward from Portland, on the list. What do you think about those guys?
I like him. I like him a lot. I like Jamar DeGray. Mike Mazziello, I have number 16 on my list. Sorry, I can't read. Number 13 on my list. I
Ooh.
really like him. I think he has a chance to be a lockdown defender who can contribute on the offensive end, and every playoff team wants that guy on the team. Love Jamar DeGray. I think he's got a lot of potential. He made my honorable mention list as well.
Mhm. Yeah, so it's a lot of good players in this league. There are a lot of good, solid players in this thing. Now, when we move up to the next one, now we're starting to get into some of the better players. I think in this group. These are part of my top 13 now that I have on my list, and these guys are definitely going to cause some trouble for opponents going forward. And we'll start it off with one of the guys in LA. That's not the only guy we're going to talk about on this list on LA for obvious reasons. I think everyone knows who else we're talking about. But that would be Donnell Bailey from Los Angeles, small forward. And I think that this guy would be the star on another team. But the fact that he's playing on LA and he's not going to be the number one ever on LA kind of brings him down a level.
Position is spoken for.
That is it, and it's going to be spoken for a while. But he is definitely a baller. I'll tell you that much. Luke Blakemore from center, and I mean, you got 17.4 points a game and 9.6 rebounds a game. He just locks it down in the center for San Antonio, and I think I really like his play.
Yeah, I think he's the cornerstone for that rebuild they got going there.
Yeah, the next guy on the list was and now at the ripe old age, I think of 21 or 22, he is finally coming on out and showing out and really becoming a star player in the SIBA. That's for sure.
Yep. Did not make my list. So another one I've
Yep.
got to look back and see if I missed something on.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, he's been in the league for a lot longer than you think he had, because I think he started when he was 19, or 18 or something, 17, or it was very young. And like I said, he was a former attack. He started with me, and I just could not put him. I mean, I just could not get him to do what I needed him to do. And lo and behold, a couple years later for Boston, he is doing what he's starting to with 17.1 points a game and 8.2 rebounds a game. He's getting it. A couple centers now on the list here. We got John Walker of Phoenix and Boogie Dudley of Toronto. You want to say a couple of words about them?
Yeah, John Walker, I have 8th on my list. I think first off, it's the craziest contract situation in the history of SIBA.
Mhm.
I probably save that for another podcast when we talk about the great value contracts we have out there.
Yep.
Bookie Dudley, I think, is another guy who's going to be solid but unspectacular. Did not make my top 20, although he did make the All Star game. Um,
Mhm.
Ivan Ashman, you have on your list. I have him 12th on my list, so we have him about
Yep.
the same spot. I will admit he should be higher on the list. I had a pretty negative scout on him, and that may have colored my perception of him ever since.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and he's up in New York, and he's getting 10 assists per game, and he's got on my list. He's got the highest assist numbers per game on any of the players that I have here, and that's why he made it that high on my list because you got to get someone to distribute that ball, and the Rock, and he's the guy that can do it.
Absolutely.
Dish out those dimes. And now we're coming into the real big players in these leagues. Now, level two for me, tier two has got 3 players in it, and it's headlined by Adam Leach up in New York. I mean,
One of the first things I asked myself after putting my list together is who am I most wrong on? And I did this about a month ago when we started to work up for this first podcast, and I had him as the best of my tier two players, all SIBA players, not the best player on championship team. And since then, he's led New York to the best record in the East and may prove me wrong. It should have been a tier one player in the first year. Love
yeah,
him, and New York's getting great play out of him.
yeah, it may prove both of us wrong because I got him in tier two as well. PJ Orr is the next one over in Montreal. I mean, just a shooting guard that can shoot.
He is killing my Jackals right now, just shooting the eyes out. I had him lower. I had him 17th in tier three. That is mostly, I'll be candid, a function of his age. He's 23 already and has not reached all SIBA. So the chances I thought of him stepping up his game from what he's already done was pretty small, but he apparently someone leaked him a copy of this list and he's making me pay for it in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of talk about that where we kind of differ on our list. I looked at more of the current sort of status of these players. You're looking at the future status of the players, and I think that's where some of our
it was a sliding scale. The younger he was, the more I was looking at potential. The older I was, the more I was looking at current performance.
And the final guy in this category for me is Donnie Nichols from Seattle, power forward, 21.7 points a game and 9.1 rebounds a game. He is definitely doing his thing over in Seattle.
Yep, we have him exactly the same spot. Tier 2, 7th on my list as well.
And now we got the big guns, the last 4 in here who I definitely think can be the top dog on a top team, and maybe one of these guys can definitely be the top guy in the league, and probably more than one of these guys can be the top guy in the league. One of these guys is the top guy in the league. Put it that way.
Yep.
4th guy on my list is my boy Mace Dean from Atlanta. Small forward. I just, what can I say about this guy? He just every time he plays for me, he leads my team to good things, and when he doesn't play, my team has troubles. So he is. I can be proof. That's proof number 1 for me that he is a guy that you need to play, or else you're not gonna be good. My team's not gonna be good. So that's why he gets into this level for me.
Yeah, I have the same top 4 as you, but I have flipped your 3 and 4. Finn Metternich is amazing. To see how that fits into a context. That's why I had Dean higher than him. And it may just be making something his fault that really isn't his fault. But I couldn't put him over Dean given what Dean has already shown in the playoffs.
Yep, 100%. And Finn is definitely a stud, and he is going to continue to be a stud and in this league. And I do think that he can, if Chicago can work out the contract difficulties with him, I think he can lead that Chicago team to where they need to be. Just who knows? Who knows what's going on behind the scenes there in Chicago? And I think they can right that ship, and hopefully they can and get him signed for a long time coming up.
Absolutely.
The number 2 player we have on our list is Larson Smith from OK.
He's what I mean. He's 20. What can you ask of a 20-year-old that this kid hasn't already done? I think he's got clear MVP potential.
100%. And I mean, if the guy who's number 1 on this list wasn't number 1 on this list, wasn't there, Larson Smith would be the king of this league. I mean, by the time he's 25, there's no doubt about it. But I don't think number 1, Rob Scott from Armamba, is going to give up that crown anytime soon.
Well, he will give up this crown next year because he ages off the list next year, along with Finn Metternich, Dion Nicholas, and John Walker. So we will have some new blood on here, but Rob Scott's going to be an MVP contender for many, many seasons to come.
That is for sure. And in fact, he's already been there. Multiple MVPs, I believe. And
Easiest
he is,
person to put on my list. He's clearly a tier one and clearly at the top of it because he's already the MVP at this
yep,
age.
that is for sure. And he's got, I mean, you just bring up his page and there's about 50 things already that he's got.
Oh yeah,
All-star,
yeah, absolutely. I did
defense.
want to take just a second to talk about a couple of differences we had between
Yep,
our
go for
lists.
it.
I don't see Roy Scott on your list, who we just had up on the screen a moment ago.
Hmm.
He has not done it yet. He's just 19. I think he's the youngest guy in my top 10. But
Hmm.
I think he's got a chance, especially if Jedi can do the work keeping Finn there. I think Roy Scott and Finn will be quite a pairing for a number of years to come. And
Hmm.
I did have to put my guy Josh Morris on the list. Incontrovertible evidence to me, he belonged in tier two there. Other than that, we're pretty close. I did not have uh, our good friend Donnell Bailey, and
Hmm.
this comes back to the other of the people I'm going to be in Byron Hooks.
Hmm.
Um, they're both brilliant players. Um, they don't exhibit the feel for the game that I
Yep.
think a top tier player needs, but they're also very, very young. And that
Mhm.
is the ability I would expect to improve as a normal part of the improvement of a young player. I think Danelle Bailey, with a little more feel for the game, is a fitting Robin to Rob Scott's Batman.
Hmm.
And I think Byron Hooks could be a tier one player if he
Yep.
develops a little more feel for the game. I hope that that's the case. The other end of the spectrum is both of them getting a lot of guys fired for not being able to get what paper says you should get out of those guys. One that I found funny is we both had a San Diego center low on our list, but you had
Yeah.
Maynard Malone and I had DJ Ding. I'm interested to see which one of them really ends up being the guy down there. But
Yep.
the new San Diego owner is set up well at the center position.
That's for sure. And I would say I am surprised in this league how many good centers there are in the league with the way that the NBA is going these days. Anti-center kind of.
Yeah.
The SIBA seems to be going pro center, and we just have so many good centers in this league, especially a lot of good young centers in this league. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes in the future as well. Van,
Absolutely. My pro tip for young GMs out there is don't overpay for a center unless it's truly special. There's a lot of
yeah,
them out there.
that is true. Van, how do you think this went? Our first show. I think it's been a success.
I think it has been. Appreciate the time. Appreciate Soph handling the controls back there and making me not look any worse than I do already.
Yeah, Soph definitely 100%. We wouldn't be able to do this without Soph putting everything together. Put in countless amount of hours, I think, to getting everything set up. I mean, it's just been unreal behind the scenes what's been going on, and of course Kelly for doing everything he does with this league, doing all these sims that take forever, every single 3 times a week is just unreal. So we want to thank Kelly for putting all this together for us. It's brought a lot of enjoyment to a lot of people, and we just keep growing this league day by day by day. And I think that we are going to continue. If anyone knows anyone else out there that wants to be a part of a great simulation basketball league, SIBA is the one to be a part of.
Best in the business.
That's for sure. Okay, the SIBA Dirty South podcast. I said it correctly. I think that's going to put one in the books for this one. It's our first one, so I'd like to thank everyone that's been listening and taking time out to be a part of this. We'll be back soon. I don't know exactly how soon. We're going to start getting a schedule going, right, Van?
Yeah, hopefully monthly. We'll see how that works.
Yep, we'll see how it goes, and we'll have a different topic every single one. Probably next one we'll be looking at some draft scouting and going forward with
Maybe
that.
our own look at the season end awards, I think, might be an interesting one for about a month out.
That could definitely be right about then. Okay, guys, thank you very much. We will see you later.
Thank you.